Good afternoon. I'm Madeline Kronenberg,
I'm Consuelo Lara.
and welcome to this week's episode of Between Two Teachers. This is a week where we have a lot to celebrate. This is being recorded on Friday afternoon, March 1st, about a half hour after it was announced that the Oakland teachers have a tentative agreement to settle their historic strike that's been going on for the last week. And we are very, very happy for them and for all of the incredible work that's been done, and for the fact that they apparently, it hasn't been ratified yet and it's only just been announced, but they've apparently also included in their materials that they're going to support a charter moratorium, just as was done in LAUSD at the end of their strike. And just as was passed in West Contra Costa Unified, the famous Lara resolution. So let us talk a little bit about that.
Yay! Yes, it passed. We won.
Yes.
And it was amazing. I still have to pinch myself. Think we did because it was well, very controversial, of course. But everybody came together. The teachers that came and talked about their own experience with charter schools and how it affected their schools, and then, the children that would be taken and then they would be returned. So we got to hear different stories about the impact the charters have on, on our district. And so all of that was very supportive, and I just want to thank everybody who was, made sure that we had people in the audience who were going to be supportive of this. And I want to thank the other board members who voted also. Val Cuevas helped with the authoring of the resolution, and Stephanie added to it as well, Stephanie Jarvis Hernandez, and voted for it. And Mr. Phillips was also very supportive, and I just, I'm very grateful, very thankful that we were able to pass this. It was very important. It was, as well, it was symbolic, because to me this said, these are our values. This is what we value. And now we can move forward with those values, because we know what we want to do. We want to have high quality schools for all students, and we involve the community. And that was really important to me. So
it was incredibly exciting, as it has been during the Oakland strike, because what this is about is preserving taxpayer money, preserving community funds, state money, for schools that are run by our own elected school boards, and for not having funds drain off so that so much is gone that there is no way for the locally elected board to run a district that our children deserve. Which is why I was disappointed that we didn't have a unanimous vote on this, because Mr. Panis seemed to be focusing on outcomes, but failed to recognize that the outcome of unregulated continued charter growth is to have our district and others like us sink into bankruptcy, just as we did back in the 90s. And that is the only possible outcome of not voting for this. And his focus on other outcomes, sort of, to me, was just changing the subject, a distraction from the topic that you were voting on. But fortunately, his was a minority viewpoint, and the majority voted to go ahead and support the moratorium, which is step one. The decision to stop charter schools is made in Sacramento. And I do want everyone to know, I'm going to post at the bottom of our, in our description to this episode, some bills that have been introduced by State Senator Skinner. Senator Skinner is a hero for all of us. And Senator Skinner has come forward with a number of bills, but two of them in particular It's not specifically a moratorium bill, but the first one is one that would allow school districts to be the only authorizers, meaning that if a school district says no, it's no, and there would be no ability to go to the county or to the state to appeal the school district's decision. That's the first one. And the second one, she has actually more than those two, and I'll post the whole list, but the two that I want to talk about are the one that eliminates the appeals, and the second one includes new reasons for denying a charter. One of them, or several of them, being looking at the impact on the children in the district schools, their academic impact, the financial impact, and the facilities impact that a new school would bring. And if you have to include looking at that impact before you would go ahead and approve a charter school. So my hope is that these become law, and that in the end there becomes a formula to look at that impact. So that school boards don't have to be subjective in how they do it. And that should be, in Oakland, there are over 30% of the children in charter schools. In our district, there'll soon be 20% of our children in charter schools if all of the schools that are currently approved fill up. And both of those numbers make it impossible to run a district. I think that there should be no more than 10% of your children in a parallel system. And if we had a law that said once you reach 10%, you're no longer even eligible to apply with a petition, I think that would spread them out among California school districts, half of whom have no charter schools. Charter schools are impacting a very small number of school districts, but those are the districts that they're driving into bankruptcy, and that's what has to stop.
Absolutely, yeah. And the effect on our facilities, that's a big one right now for us. I recently went to Pinole Middle, and they have a school there, Voices. It's TK second grade, I believe. And it's really problematic. The thing I noticed was that there's the science teacher. I just happened to run into him, and he was saying that one of the labs that they need, it's his lab, is being used by that school for their office. So, in other words, there's classes of science who are not able to go to the lab, have lab sessions. So they're being denied access to their science education because of the intrusion of a charter school there. That's not fair. That's not right. The other was that the parents apparently think it's okay for them to drive straight through the campus onto the playground or the PE grounds and pick up their kids and then just come right out while there's classes going on. So that teacher has to stop and wait. This is just a hazard all the way around. So it doesn't work. Co-location does not work.
It totally doesn't work, which is why it's wonderful that Ms. Skinner has included facilities impacts as a reason to deny a charter school.
Yes.
Because nobody has a separate set of school buildings available just ready to be occupied in their school district. Nobody is running a district that way. And the presumption in the charter school world that we are is foolish. So we do need to have conversations around how we can manage the schools that we have, and we need to be creative about looking at places that that we can move students, and different kinds of co-locations as to whether or not we should co-locate two of our schools rather than co-locate with a charter school. So anyway, I think that there is going to be a meeting coming up next week, right?
On March the 7th, there's going to be a study session about this very topic, and it's going to be at De Anza High School in about 6:30, I believe. So that's March the 7th. And they will be talking about this issue because a lot of rumors get started without knowing, exactly what's going on, like that Crespi is going to be closed or, so more co-locations. And we don't know. At this point, we don't know because we don't know about the numbers, if they're going to go down more and what we'll have to do. So we got to look at all the options, all the possibilities. Where can we put these different, we just have too many schools and not enough sites for all of these.
Right. And what we really have to do is encourage our parents, our preschool parents especially, to look long and hard at our neighborhood schools and to understand that they really offer the best possible choice for them for their future. And that's a conversation that we haven't worked as hard at as we could.
Yeah.
Right? There have been assumptions, and I think we've taken them for granted, and we shouldn't do that. We've learned that that's a mistake because certainly the charter industry does not take them for granted and has actively, very actively recruited them, usually and oftentimes by demonizing us while they're doing it.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, now that this resolution is passed, the question is, so now what? Now what do we do? And I think what we need to do is we need to dismantle the charter industry. It needs to be a criminal act to actually take public education funds and use it for investing, to use it for multi-million-dollar salaries, to put this on, to have them on Wall Street, all of that. It's just immoral. It needs to be absolutely illegal. It's a terrible way, a terrible system to allow, and they're mostly billionaires already, to make more money on the schools' budget for poor children and working class people. So I don't know, it's just a terrible situation, and so we need to dismantle that monopoly, and that is something I'm going to work on.
So we need to change the charter school law, and we should, the other part of that is the districts that have been the most impacted. So there's a list of who they are in LA and Oakland and us and a number of other districts have a high percentage of children who are siphoned off and whose funding is drained off from our other children. We need to be made whole. And one way that could happen is if the tax loopholes that are used by the real estate investors in the charter school properties are closed. If there were no such loopholes, no such tax advantages, and instead the funding that flows from that came back into the school districts, we could pay to backfill us so that we no longer had had our children, our district children, paying the bills for the folks who took advantage of those tax loopholes.
Yeah, all of those loopholes need to be taken away. And I think it was just today, Betsy DeVos, hasn't she, now wants more tax credits.
Absolutely.
Tax breaks for the rich and for charters.
For charters.
Specifically.
Yes, exactly.
There's
So this is anti-democratic. It has there are so many issues here, but we really do see that there's a movement to go in the right direction. And so if we can do what we need to do to make sure that there's a moratorium, that there is the ability to legitimately say no and have that safety net for our children put in so that we're no longer losing money, so that we're not undermining everything LCFF was about, which was social justice. And it's everything that having huge amounts of charter school undermine. There is no way that there's the intent of bringing them in fulfills a goal of social justice. It does exactly the opposite. It hurts the children that you're trying to serve if you care at all about social justice.
Great. Okay.
I think that there was a lot to be said about this topic this week, and that was the biggest news from West Contra Costa.
Absolutely. It was a
Right.
very exciting night, I have to say. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It
So
was.
very
So
nice.
you can go back. I'll put a link to it in the description as well. So if you're interested, you can watch it. Please subscribe to our channel. I know new people are watching us now, and you can ring the bell, and it will ring when you once we've put something up. And we'll be back next week to tell you what's new.
Bye.
Bye.